We're live.
Awesome.
What's up, bro? It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
What was the last podcast? Month ago? Longer than that.
I think it was before you left to Germany.
Yeah.
Right?
It was with who did we have on the podcast?
I think it was Tony Ulises.
Oh yeah, Tony Aguirre. We did it at Chavi's dance place.
Yes, sir.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. Today we have Mr. Trinidad Gonzales here, sitting alongside of us at the podcast. And sorry for being a little late.
That's my fault. I apologize.
As you all know, we live on the road.
we are builders. You know, it's I have this conversation with Jaime, my you know Jaime.
Yes, sir.
My realtor.
There's water there if you want.
And thank you, bro. And we had this conversation the other day because he's like, hey, well, you know, you need to get on your schedule and get your calendar. I'm like, bro, building that, like, I wish it was like that. It's not like that.
No.
There's every day something new comes up, fire that you got to go put out, or I don't know, whatever that may be. I had one of my workers got hurt. Right. And so like there goes your calendar. Like there goes your schedule. You got to go take care of that, or, whatever they call you, they're delivering material. They need you to say, you got to go, like,
Yeah.
So it's very hard to get on a schedule when you're a builder.
Especially when you have a painter that consistently keeps putting his wife in the hospital.
Yeah.
There's always something going on
Why
with my
is he
painter.
putting his wife in the
I
hospital?
don't know. There's always like, well, my wife's in the hospital, or her mom passed away. I'm like, bro, it's like the second time in a year that her mom passed away.
Yeah.
But they're, those are, like you said, like it's really hard.
Yeah.
To stay on a calendar.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
So I do apologize for being late, but it is very nice to meet you, sir. What do you do?
I'm a history and Mexican Studies instructor at South Texas College.
Very cool.
I'm also a co-founder of a nonprofit history organization called Refusing to Forget.
Okay.
That has received many national awards for the work we've done. It examines state-sanctioned violence against Mexicanos in the state of Texas, including the Rio Grande Valley, when we had La Matanza of 1915, when about 200 to 300 Mexicanos were killed in Hidalgo, Cameron, Wolsey County from July to November 1915, mainly by Texas Rangers, local law enforcement, and vigilantes.
For what reason?
There was an insurgency. It was the last time Mexicanos tried to separate this territory from the United States. And in response to that insurgency, people who were suspected of supporting that insurgency were targeted for killing. They actually created blacklists. And they put people's names on there, and they would the word they used at the time was evaporated. They wouldn't use the word murder or kill.
Yeah.
And this is documented by the state. 1919, they did an investigation of the Rangers and all that stuff was going on, and they substantiated it with evidence, right? And so we're looking at that history because
I didn't even know.
Yeah,
I've been living in the valley all my life.
Okay. So,
Wow.
So we brought that history to a wider public. As academics, we knew about it. I knew about it personally because my great-grandfather was killed by Los Rinches, as they called, and his father. They're buried in the Laguna Seca Ranch. I thought my story was maybe a dozen people, whatever, but when I started doing research on it, I didn't know it was going up to about 300 people.
Yeah.
And we have names about 100-something people. And I just put together, I'm going to do another podcast tomorrow night on this, on the Refuse to Forget's Patreon Zoom thing. And what I did was I put together a list. There's 3 lists that we have of people that were indicated and killed. Some had greater information, like how they were killed, dates, locations. And I put a list together. So it's the first time that 3 lists have been put together into one sort of bigger list, and then provided anecdotal information for each case. And I already submitted that to the Hidalgo County District Attorney for consideration of acknowledging the homicides, because right now the state of Texas thinks all those people are alive because they've never acknowledged the murders. And so to bring dignity and respect to those that were murdered, I began the process of asking the various district attorneys to consider acknowledging the homicides, to at least recognize the dignities of people's lives. So anyway, I'm not sure that's what we're here to talk about.
I mean,
No, that's okay. I have a feeling this is what I'm telling you. Like, my schedule's going to be off because we're going to be here for a while, right? This is very interesting.
It's wow.
So, but the other thing I've done is me, and along with several hundred academics and community members and students during the 20-teens, right?
Okay.
Worked on getting a Mexican Studies high school class created, and it currently exists. It's taught throughout Texas, taught here in the Valley. And also during that time, somebody proposed a textbook that was very racist in the depiction of Mexicanos, right? So one, it said Mexicans don't know how to work. They can't put a full day's work. They're lazy.
Are you kidding me?
That
is so far from the truth.
Well, yeah, I know. And so...
and this was something that they were trying to put in textbook?
A textbook for high schools, yes.
They were trying to put that in our system?
Yes. It was called... the textbook was called Mexican American Heritage. And so anyway, we as scholars went through the textbook and we identified all the factual errors and presented a report to the Texas State Board of Education on the errors we found, and they decided. I'm making the story a little bit shorter, but they decided unanimously to reject the textbook. So that textbook was not accepted by the state of Texas. But we had to struggle and organize to do all this, right? So part of the organizing experiences I have is around Mexican American Studies advocacy in the state of Texas, and so my understanding of advocacy, which is really civil engagement, which is what all Americans should be doing. Is trying. I think I can give you some sort of nuts and bolts outlines of what that takes, how it operates. It's not neat. It's messy. You just talked about construction. It's the same way you're dealing with personalities and all this stuff. But we had earlier conversations about this, and I know right now there's interest on how people can start organizing to express their concerns to our local representatives, and by local I mean really federal representatives, and get them to understand that the policies they're currently pursuing are detrimental to our community
and to America itself, right? And
yeah,
our Constitution
it's the
everything that we live by, and what
Yeah, I thought I heard a ridiculous statement. Well, I didn't think I heard it. That there's different levels of due process for people in the United States. So that's incorrect. The Constitution is for everybody within the jurisdiction of the United States, regardless of your citizenship status.
Right.
So you can't say, well, you're not a citizen, so we get to torture you.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court already ruled on that. You can't do that.
Wow.
So anyway.
Human rights aren't specifically for citizens, right? Humans are for humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about having a conversation about using my experience within that advocacy to give to this other audience that has not done that kind of work before, to think about it, how to approach it, and then what are the sorts of nuts and bolts things you got to do to put together a coalition, a group of people to advocate for what you want, right? And I'm pretty sure there's people out there who have very different values or political perspectives than I have. I'm not talking about that as much as I'm talking about this is how you go about doing it.
Yeah.
And then you push forward your agenda.
Yeah,
right.
Because a lot of people, emotions come into play, right? Especially when you're singling out a specific race, right? And I think the stuff that you're seeing in California, for example, it comes from an emotional reaction that, I mean, you can't necessarily blame, right? And but there are better ways to do it, and there's ways to actually get a coalition going to make change and affect change,
and it's been done. I mean, it's not like we don't have a history of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, civil rights comes out of this, the various civil rights movements,
that was
political
a big
advocacy, just all sorts of things have come out on that engagement. But more importantly, as an educator from K-12 to higher ed in the United States, we are required to teach what's called civics, which means being engaged with the conversations and pushing your interest on the elected officials. And that's why we have elections.
Why is that important?
Because if you don't, then they decide stuff for you that you may not agree with.
Yeah.
And what you've done is, if you don't speak, then you can't complain about people running over you.
Right.
That's beautiful.
You got to speak.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. You got to vote. Voting is too important too. We have a lot of voter apathy, and I don't blame the voters as much as I blame the political parties not truly engaging those people who are completely aware of the issues. They're not apathetic because they're unaware. They're apathetic because they have not been engaged. They haven't had people sit down and have conversations with them that are serious. And so I think that needs to be addressed as well.
Do you think the Electoral College and the way that all works and gerrymandering affects voter turnout?
Probably does. If a voter thinks that no matter what they do, they're not going to be able to achieve a sort of electoral outcome that they like, they may not vote. But my answer to that is this. We get to do it again in 4 years, 2 years, 6 years, depending on what the position is. And so just because you lose and you voted and the guy or woman you want to support lost doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Our democracy's lifeblood is elections and respecting the outcomes of the elections.
Yeah.
Because we get to do it again.
Yeah.
If this was a final election and we never have elections again, well then, you're going to lead to civil war, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
But this is how we've been able to avoid that, is that we know that, okay,
There'll be another chance.
The political party or people I supported lost. Put on my big boy, big girl pants, and let's do it again.
Next, yeah.
But in the
Don't
meantime,
give up.
you're the opposition, and as an opposition, you have to present and advocate for the positions that the people who supported you had there, and have that honest debate in the public square, in the legislature, wherever, to help modify or shape legislation that's being proposed.
It takes work.
Yeah,
but you got to put it in, or else nothing happens if you don't do anything.
Being an American is an idea, and one of the aspects of being American is hard work.
Yeah,
it's anybody could be an American. You could be born a U.S. citizen, but that doesn't make you an American.
Yeah.
What makes you an American, and this is what I learned from my dad, is hard work. You go out and work. What my dad always said, he goes, I don't want a handout, I want an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's a very South Texas value.
Yes.
That is a very Mexicano value. And that's why I think we get so upset, regardless of our political affiliations, what's going on, and specifically targeting yard workers, construction workers, restaurant workers, people doing nursing home work, right? Because nursing homes are getting hit hard right now.
Yeah.
It feels these are the workers. These aren't the rapists.
Yeah.
Go get the rapists. Don't mess with those people.
Yeah. Why what is the need to go after hard workers?
Well, I think what people don't seem to understand, or they don't want to talk about it if they do understand it, is that, Stephen Miller, the sort of czar, the intellectual behind the mass deportation for a long time, even when he was under, he worked for Senator from Alabama, I forgot his name.
Stephen Miller, did you call him an intellectual?
The intellectual for this. Well, he is an intellectual in the sense that he's bought into the Great Replacement theory, which is the idea that the United States needs to remain a white nation, and to maintain itself as a white nation, we got to deport as many people of color as possible. Yeah. Now, they will not always say that, but they do say it enough times on public that we've got them on record for saying it.
Right.
But they'll say stuff like, no, we're getting rid of criminals, or this is about the law. They broke the law, so they got to pay for the law.
Sure.
I mean, people speed every day. That's breaking the law. Doesn't mean you get deported, right?
Yeah. White people commit crimes.
Why do people commit crimes?
No, white people commit crimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're not deporting them?
No. No.
And they're not from here.
This is why it's a mass deportation. This is why it's not selective deportation. It's mass deportation because the idea is we're going to remove as many non-whites as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why isn't that clear? Like, why is it and maybe you don't know the answers to this, right? But why isn't our society clear about that?
Well,
that's clearly happening.
Many people in our society embrace and support that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they believe, and they support it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we don't, but that's what they believe, right?
Yeah. And that's why making sure that the proper things are put in our textbooks.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it's just what you learn, right? It's your upbringing. Right. It's what you know. And so if you don't know anything else, it's ignorance. And that could play a part, that could be playing a part in why we have so many people that think that the right thing to do is to get rid of brown people.
Yeah. And the other thing that's important for education is the development of critical thinking. And we need 100%. To, but there's a barrier to critical thinking. Is that it's called belief bias or something like that, confirmation bias, where even if you're presented with information that contradicts what you believe, you're going to reject it. Mm-hmm. You're say, well, that's not really true, or this. Yeah, you're like, nah. Even though it's right in your face, right?
Yeah,
right.
And so, like a lot of people, when they were told during the campaign that Trump is going to do mass deportation, because no, he's only going to deport the bad ones. He's only going to deport the bad ones. He's only going to deport the bad ones.
Right.
He's not going to deport my father-in-law. He's not going to deport, whatever. And of course, now you like the Latinos for Trump in Florida are all abandoned the Latino for Trump effort, right? Because their spouses are getting deported, and they're Cubanos, and Cubanos always had sort of a special place protection in the United States.
Yeah.
And they're getting deported, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? I mean, you have Cubans in Miami protesting Trump, and you got Mexicanos in LA protesting Trump. I've never seen that happen before, and the person who actually pointed that out to me was this guy named Mike Madrid. He does the Latino Vote podcast. He goes, something's up when you got Cubans and Mexicanos protesting the same government over the same issues. That there's going to be going to be a reckoning with across the Latino community concerning these policies.
Mr. Gonzales, I think a lot of our us Mexican Americans voted for the Trump administration, and I'll be the first to admit that I did vote for Trump. When he was talking about that he was going to do this mass deportation, a lot of us envisioned, or at least thought, that it was because of all the people that were coming from South America, and that was the reason that he was running off of that. Because and please educate me when I'm wrong, and if I say something that's not right. But didn't we have like a influx of like hundreds of thousands of people that came in from South America?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the border surge with people seeking asylum became overwhelming. And you could agree chaotic. Now, I'm a firm believer in asylum, particularly as a historian. Back in the 30s, we turned away a boat full of Jewish refugees, sent them back to Europe because we refused to allow them to come in. They were killed in the Holocaust.
Okay.
And this is where the asylum laws come from for the United States, because we don't want to make that mistake again. We didn't want to send people who were legitimately fleeing for their lives, being persecuted, to go back and get killed because we rejected their claims, right? And so that's where that came in. But, does the asylum process as it works right now need to be addressed or fixed? Yeah, it does. Did it create a lot of apprehension for a lot of people, even people who support immigration and legalization pathways for people? Yeah, it does. So it's not a simple issue.
But what I'm trying to understand is that I felt like that statement that he made, and now, which is actually action, because it's action now. Yeah. I felt like it came from that particular play that came from the Biden administration, where they were bringing all these people in, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna the greatest mass deportation that anyone's ever seen," and I would like to at least. I would say, and I'll admit that I saw it, that, he's going to make sure that all these people that came in and were just being allowed in are either going to go back home, or they're going to find a way to properly bring them in. I don't think any person here in South Texas ever felt that maybe their grandfather or tia or tío or somebody that they knew was going to be at risk of losing their livelihood for this. You know what I mean? And do you think this administration is going as far as they are now to back up that word that he said?
Well, in 2016, he made the same arguments. So what's changed was what happened under the Biden administration, and people's like, okay, this is out of control, let's go. And the other thing is, a lot of people voted for Trump because of economic concerns. They said, well, I'm not really worried about him doing the immigration stuff, because either A, he can't do it because he doesn't have the resources to do it. They didn't foresee pulling FBI agents and marshals and ATF agents and all these other law enforcement agencies to be tasked specifically with deportation, and abandoning investigations on organized crime and traffickers and all the stuff that FBI and ATF and all those guys are supposed to be doing.
We were talking about that earlier. We were talking about that earlier
because they're being tasked to do, federal detention guards are now being deputized. So what happens? You had a massive shift of law enforcement officers away from their normal sorts of law enforcement activities, essentially being abandoned or dropped or whatever, and they're deporting, elderly people working in the yard or in the construction sites, and they're not going after the organized crime they were way before. So I don't know if that makes. I think that doesn't make us safer, right? That's just my thoughts, right? But in 2016, Trump said the same thing. So he's been consistent. What happened is he learned in 2016 that he needed to change the fundamental personnel within the bureaucracy of the U.S. government that would not adhere to what he wanted to pursue. Hence, you have to have the mass firings in 2025, to put in that personnel that are going to say, yes, sir, and I'll do whatever you want, which is what we're seeing now, to accomplish what is going on now. So in 2016, he had the same goal. He didn't have the skills or knowledge or ability to execute on it. 2025, he learned, and they brought in the personnel to do it, and they're executing. And now they got $150 billion extra to do it, right?
176, I think.
176, yeah.
Billion,
yeah.
Bro, to get rid of Latinos.
Yeah. Well, also Haitians and Cubans. Cubans are Latinos, but, a wide swath of people as well.
Yeah.
And that's not even getting into the conversation of denaturalizing people, right? So people who've been naturalized as citizens saying, well, you did some sort of error in your paperwork, therefore we're going to denaturalize. He actually did this in his first term. Supreme Court ruled against them. Says, look, you can't denaturalize, take somebody's citizenship because of a paperwork error.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to show that they lied about being a war criminal or, being something like that. But just be some little minor detail on paperwork, you're going to take away their citizenship. They're pursuing that again now.
Wow.
So we're not just talking about undocumented. And then also legal residents who are going just for the normal appointments or getting their green cards taken away. There's an 82-year-old guy. He lost his green card, went to get his replacement green card. They said, no, we're deporting you. And the family didn't know where he was. They found him in Guatemala in a hospital.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Do you want to get into the conversation about nuts and bolts of organizing? Or?
We want to get into whatever conversation regarding this, because I think that, to be honest with you, I think that the whoever's listening to the podcast is very interested.
Okay. Well,
so no worries. Yes, let's talk about it all.
We technically never really have a
agenda.
An agenda. We like to just let it flow.
So I want to.
They're right here. They're right here in the bottom.
So I want to start off with the.
And if there's tomato,
please.
So I want to start out with a sort of way to think about how you might approach this, particularly if you're a Republican. First thing you have to understand about political parties is that they're supposed to be functional. They're not supposed to be your identity. Mm-hmm. So Democrat, if you go on Democrat, Republican before anything else, that's a problem.
Yes.
The political parties are there to function at bringing people together with like sort of views or values, whatever, to create policy around those shared values, whatever. And it's not going to be completely
in that season,
yeah,
right? Because things change.
Yeah, and it's not going to not everybody within the parties going to agree, right?
Sure. And
that's what parties are functioning. And then what they do is they can organize with money and candidates and all that stuff to get people elected to put forward that agenda. But if you start to look at political parties as a functional organization to bring into policy your values, to support the things you believe in, that supports you, and you start to see it as your identity, then you've done something that you're not supposed to do. Same thing with candidates. We're not required to be loyal to a candidate. We're not required to be loyal to a political party. We're in a democracy. We can choose, I don't like that candidate. I want another one, or I don't want to be in this political party. So let me give you a personal story. Me and my brother grew up eating the same tortillas, caldo de pollo, everything, right? Tripas in the weekends. He was a Republican. I was a Democrat. And he was Reagan Republican, I should say. Where we disagreed was how much should government intervene in helping people in poverty issues, right? He was like less to that and less government regulation of small business, right? And I also actually support that. With the poverty issues is where we kind of disagreed, and that's why he was a Republican. Come to the early 2000s with the Sensenbrenner bill that put in the bill said, if you are driving somebody who's undocumented, like your mom or your grandparents or whatever, you are now considered a coyote. You're considered a smuggler.
Mm-hmm. Wait. If you are driving somebody,
a family member, and they're not a citizen, but you are, you are now going to be charged with being a human trafficker. Now, the bill didn't pass. And I don't know if you remember this back in
Ulises, there's one right there in the middle, pa. Look, keep going. Right there on the left.
The bottle opener.
Right there.
So I don't know if you remember this back in 2006. We had these mega marches for immigrants across the United States. I participated in the one in D.C. because I was living in D.C. at the time, and everybody wore white shirts. And the thing is, with all these mega marches, the Rush Limbaugh and what's the guy? The conservatives were like, oh, we're going to have all this violence and riots, whatever. And what ended up happening was you had people with strollers with their family and their kids, and it became a pachanga, right? But advertising, their concerns. Exactly, right? And they're showing their concerns about the possible passage of this bill. The bill didn't get passed, right? But there are these mega marches in L.A., Chicago, Dallas, D.C., or whatever, right? And they had to concede, like, wow, we've never seen this many Latinos get together and there was no violence. They go, pendejo, you don't know Latinos. That's why you're saying that, right? This is why you're surprised. And the rest of us weren't surprised. We all knew it was going to end up being a pachanga. You get a bunch of us together, we're going to party, right? Yeah. And so it killed the bill because it showed the human nature, the family-centered community that was there, that was opposite of what they're being fed. Through the white right-wing ecosystem of rapists and murderers and all that stuff. So the people who organize that's the kind of stuff we're going to need to happen again, right? And it was peaceful. It wasn't like the stuff that happened in LA recently, where you had the peaceful protest and then you had these rioters who were doing crazy stuff, right?
Right.
It's going to have to be family-centered. And And you're going to have to organize that way to get your current elected officials to start putting pressure on the executive to stop doing what they're doing. We'll see how that's going to work, right? So what I'm trying to get at is my brother at that moment when that law was being proposed stopped being a Republican and became a Democrat, and because he said the party's left me. How can I be part of a party that says I'm a rapist or I'm a criminal and all you know us here, right? I go, all I wanted to do is work hard.
Yeah.
Make something for my family.
Right.
Right. Have a barbecue on the weekend.
Yeah.
And so the party left him. And so what the point of the story is that political parties, Democrat, Republican, whatever, should be seen as functional, not your identity. When you start saying I'm a Republican and that supersedes everything else, then you got a problem.
You're voting blindly.
Yeah. And so I would like for people to sit back and think about.
Not all Republicans are the same, right?
No. That's why we have divisions, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what people need to do is sit back and think, is what being pursued by the Republican Party today in the best interest of me, my family, and my community? Even though I've been a lifelong Republican, are they still doing something positive for me? So when they're doing the raids on your construction sites, your building sites, they're literally taking money from you that you can't give to your family. Mm-hmm. They're doing that to the individual workers too, but they're doing it to you as business owners, right?
Yeah.
And so if a party's doing that and they don't want to change, then you got to start either forcing them to change or and it's politics, get them out of office, right? And that's going to be individual choices people are going to have to make, right? So the first thing I think people need to think about when they're approaching this is, what are the values? What's going on? How's this affecting me, my community, my family? And then how do I put together a coalition to force the government to address those issues and fix those issues so that it doesn't hurt us anymore? So that's the first thing, right? The second thing is, when you're doing coalition building, it's messy. It's like construction, right? Mm-hmm. You got personalities. Everybody wants to do one thing.
Everybody has an idea.
Everybody has an idea, whatever. So don't get frustrated. We're all divided, or we can't get it. It can work out. You're just going to have conversations and be patient, right? So that's the first thing. Is remember, the coalition is messy. Is messy when you're building it. Second thing, keep your messages simple and based on your values, right? So if you're going to tell somebody something, make it no more than 3 points with specific values. When you get to convincing them, then you can say, okay, look, here's model legislation, or this is what any future legislation, right? So I know Monica de la Cruz put forward this new proposed legislation to bring in guest workers, right? By the way, the guest workers are already maxed out. Trump expanded it by another 60,000. I think it's already all maxed out on top of what was over there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to reopen the guest workers for farms and stuff like that. But the problem with her legislation is this, right? She goes, say you're a farmer or you're in construction and you work for somebody with 20 years, does a good job, consistent, knows everything. Now she's saying, well, we're going to deport that guy, but you can go find somebody new.
Who's saying that?
It's in her bill. And her bill is not protecting people here right now. Her bill is saying we're going to get people from other countries to come in as guest workers, but we're not going to protect the guy who's been working for you for 20 years that happens to be undocumented.
I think Monica needs to realize who she represents, because we've tried reaching out to her several times, and we are consistently met with disregard.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
and not that I'm trying to pile on Monica, but that was her proposed legislation, and I think she's got a blind spot. She needs to say,
where's the connection?
We need to have a bill that says if you're here, you're an employer, and you know this person, you can validate this person as a good person, has worked for you, and you know that, because training new people is hard, right?
Right.
Then we should provide, based on that affidavit, we should provide some sort of legal status so they can keep working here, so it's not disruptive to your operations. Mm-hmm. You know. That's my suggestion on that specific.
Because that's what's humane at the end of the day.
It's also humane because they have families.
Bro,
they have kids.
They've got history. They're here. They've got friends. They see people. They spend money in the economy.
Yeah.
They're already part of our society. They're already part of our society.
So yeah,
that's the reality.
So we have any guest worker proposal? I think it has to incorporate the employers who can validate their existing workforce, if they happen to be undocumented, saying they're on, that I can vouch for them, whatever. Now, the problem, of course, with that is that we have the 86 law that says you're not supposed to hire undocumented people, right? So people tend to use subs and all that, but you can write into that law some sort of waiver to that aspect thing. You knowing or unknowingly hired somebody who's undocumented, right?
Yeah.
But do you think they want to do that?
Do I think Miller and Trump want to do that? No.
Yeah.
But you got to start pressing the wall somewhere, and why not start pressing the wall from the valley to push a national conversation that this is common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think that they were expecting that people were just going to jump out of their seats that apparently can't get a job right now? I saw something that J.D. Vance was like, well, I believe that farmers and I believe that people that are struggling to find employees should go, and this is something that just like, I was like, what? He was like, I think you should go to rehab centers. I don't know if you saw this or not. He was talking about going to rehab centers and giving drug addicts an opportunity to get a job. And I was like, how can the vice president...
Que pendejo.
How can you
really,
say
bro?
that? Like,
okay, well, hire one for your nanny.
Right?
Well, I mean, I think people who have substance abuse should be given an opportunity to work, but if you're talking about taking somebody whose body is already fragile from their substance abuse, they're not going to be able to do farm work. They're not going to be able to do construction work.
Well, see,
you got to find jobs for them.
It's not realistic.
Yeah, it's just not common sense.
What's the most important thing in a person's life? What is the number one purchase that a person does? It's a house.
Yeah.
It's a house. A home is one of the most important purchases that a human does in their lifetime. And most of the time, most humans will stay with that particular home for 10, 20, 30 years. That is the number one thing. Yesterday, we had a workshop with a company called Rockwool. And this guy, I like this kid. He's out of Falfurrias. And the company's based out of Norwich. And what they do is they dissolve rock, and with that rock that they dissolve, they create this insulation that is soundproof. It's proof to fire. It doesn't release any toxins when it catches fire, and all this stuff. It was a great presentation. But one of the things he said was, he goes, "I understand that the product may be during his presentation may be $4 or $6 more expensive." He's like, but one thing that I want you all to understand as builders is that you're building something that you will have humans that will be occupying this for the rest of their lives. So he's like, if you spend $4 to $6 more on giving them something that's going to last forever, and he's like, it could get wet, submerged underwater, and you can still use it. He's like, it's going to last forever. One of the things that I see from this administration is that as you are giving leeway for farmers to have the ability to keep these people that are working there, I think they did something to where like farmers that had workers for 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to get a pass to stay there, whatnot. I think to myself, one of the most important purchases in a human's life is a home. We were talking about a framer today, my dad and I. Got this house that I'm building. I'm about to start construction on. Who are you going to use? I'm like, I'm going to use Vera. He's the best. And that's why I'm going to use him. Because in my perspective, I know that I don't have to be on top of him to frame this home. Right. If you are purchasing a home, wouldn't you want somebody that's qualified? Yeah. How is it okay for a politician to be like, no, don't worry about it. We'll bring somebody else across. We'll get them documented correctly. And you can teach them, dude, do you know how hard it is to frame?
That's the other thing. They keep saying this is unskilled labor. This is not unskilled labor.
No.
Anybody who's had anything to do with construction knows that either framing, roofing, all that stuff is not unskilled labor. Is it hard labor? Hell yeah.
Yes, it is.
But it's not unskilled. You need to know what you're doing, right? There's all these funny TikTok videos. They're always Mexicans, right? And they always have the kid. He goes, give me a 2x4. He tells the kid, right? Because he's framing the house with her. And so the kid gets a ruler and he gets 2 inches by 4 inches, a little piece of wood like that. And he takes it to him and he goes, pendejo, that's not a 2x4, right? The point being is that the work people do in construction or even, like in the fields in California, you got to know which, peaches or grapes to pull when it's time to pull it. You got to understand what you're doing.
Yeah. And
you can't just throw somebody in there like just pull randomly anything you want or just go hit a nail with a hammer and you're now a construction guy. It's not that simple, right?
Right.
Usually when you start on construction, your first job is a gopher, right? And somebody's kind of showing you how to do that. At STC, we have classes that teach construction, right? From basic construction all the way to management. This is skilled labor that we're deporting.
Right.
And I think that's people fail to understand that.
Wasn't it just 5 years ago that they were essential?
Yeah.
What happened? They're not essential anymore.
That's a great point.
What happened?
So there's
Why do we forget?
Right. So the other things about coalition building, once you sort of get a group, you're going to get like 30, 40, 50 people. Maybe 5 to 7 are going to be the hard workers that get everything done. And then you might have another 4 or 5 or 6 that you're pretty good, right? And then you have some people that will come in and out, right? One thing I want people to do, particularly the ones that are doing the heavy lifting, is don't get frustrated when people are not participating in as much of the labor and organizing as you are, because you don't know if they have family they're taking care of, or their jobs or whatever. People have lives out. This is all extra work on top of what we normally do.
Right.
I mean, a lot of time my coalition, our coalition calls, my daughter was on my lap. She was, a few months old, whatever. I mean, so she's been on more coalition calls and activism for, Mexican studies and all that than I think most people have been in those kinds of calls in their life.
Well, Mr. Gonzales, it's actually it's eye-opening to have a person like yourself sitting with us today, because I would have I never thought that there would be someone like yourself that's out there doing this for the Mexicans, right? But also like South Texas. I mean, these are things you don't learn in school. People don't teach you this.
Yeah, what's the most common thing I get told by my students, and I include this in my U.S. history, and also in college in Texas, you can substitute U.S. history with Mexican American history, right, for any of your degrees, is why were we not taught this in school? Why do I have to go to college to learn this, right? And a generation before that is, why did I have to go to graduate school to learn about this, right? I remember a scientist student, and this is back like in early 2000, something, is around when my grandmother passed away, my grandmother Eulalia, so around 2008, he was here for the summer from Yale, and he goes, "Hey, did you know that there is this thing, the planes and the matanza and all that stuff I was talking about?" I go, "Yeah, I knew," because he had read one of my colleagues in Refuse and Forget's book, Forgotten Rebellion, and so he goes, "I had to go to Yale to learn about our history." I go, "Yeah, that happens. It's a shame, and this is why we fought so hard for Mexican American studies in high schools, so that they could be incorporated into students' understanding of the world. But Mexican American studies is not just for Mexicanos or Latinos; it's also for all people, because shouldn't we learn the histories of all Americans, not just a select group?
Sure, absolutely. Why not? Why do we get stuck on requiring our government to do the educating for us, right? Like, especially now, we live in an information age that you can have access to anything, any information at any given time, instantly, right? Is there any social media groups that you know of that push this history and put it in the forefront, at least for people to know that, dude, this stuff exists, right?
Right.
Is anybody doing that?
Well, yeah, there's various entities that provide what we consider acceptable history or teaching of subjects that meet standards that we have at a college or a school. There's also a lot of crap out there, right?
Yeah.
so it's a part of learning to, like, okay, this is solid. These are solid people. They know what they're talking about, whether they're credentialed and all that. And there's not like Refusing to Forget. When we first met in 2014,
I love that.
one of the things we talked about was creating a social media presence, right? Because we wanted a wider audience. We knew that academics knew this history, but we wanted a wider audience of out there, right? And so that meant we had to create a Facebook page, Twitter feed, and a website. And the history page on Refusing to Forget is the page that gets the most hits per month.
And we could just look it up as Refusing and Forget.
Refusing to Forget.
Refusing to Forget. Okay.
Refusing. I'm sorry.
I think it's very important for every person that is.
I'm a follower.
I'm about to follow too. I think that a lot of the business owners here, and if you're in real estate in any way, shape, or form,
forward that, please.
Can you tag it
on the builder chat?
Can you tag it? Refusing to Forget. I think it's very important. Any person that is a business owner to learn the history, and I'm very interested in learning, because what is happening right now, at least in my perspective, it's affecting a lot of our colleagues. Yesterday I had a conversation with a fellow colleague and member of the STBA. How are you doing? I'm doing good. How are you doing? He's like, I'm scared. I looked at this man. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are you scared? And he's like, I can't finish my projects. Like that. And I was like, how many projects do you have? He's like, 5. He's like, and I can't move them. That's scary.
And that's because of the labor?
Mm-hmm.
Es que la gente está asustada.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
we've got a lot of people that have come back to work.
Yeah.
But there's still plenty that are afraid, and there's a bunch that got picked up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So to use history, and you talked about people not being familiar with history. So obviously this place was settled by the indigenous communities first, right? 11,000 years ago they were here. If you want to learn a good history of the indigenous, go to CHAPS at UTRGV, CHAPS.
Okay.
It's a good local history project that does a lot of history of the area. They have a new documentary film called Ancient Landscapes, so it actually talks about the geological history of the area, which is real fascinating. It's on YouTube. It's free. But when the Spanish get here, it's a well-populated area, right? It's not sparsely populated. There's Native Americans here. One of the things I used to do in my classes, I got the Colhuitecan language that was recorded by the Smithsonian in a dictionary, and I gave the students the Colhuitecan words for numbers up to 20, right? Because they use the base of 20. Not a base of 10. My wife's a math instructor, so why are they using 20? I go, well, that's a base of 20. And she explained you could do certain things with it that you can't do with 10 or whatever. And the reason I had that is so they have numbers. I go, that means they did math. Mm-hmm. Right? So don't think of these people as being backwards or just hunter gatherers, whatever. They were and so this area traded to the Midwest, to the plains, right? So peyote culture that we know now comes from this area, and it goes up to the Plains Indians, right? They had materials from Veracruz and stuff like that. So they were involved in a dynamic network of trade, right? So this was already business going on here with the indigenous. Right? They're involved in trade.
And this is history in the...
Here in the Rio Grande Valley, yes. Yes. And then when the Spanish get here, they find that, but they also find an African colony. Because what happens, you had some African slaves that either escaped slavery or they were shipwrecked. We weren't sure, but when they got here, so the first non-indigenous people here in the valley are Africans, right? So the Spanish do the entrada, 1749. But the Spanish entrada into this area is going to develop a culture that we still see with us today. This is what it is. The Spanish were not as powerful as they were during the 1500s, right? They didn't have the kind of money. So the told the people, if you're going to come into this area, we'll give you 10 years tax-free. We'll give you land and take your cattle and your cattle, your sheep, your goats, and your horses and mules and make it productive. And this area was the most productive area for generating wealth for the Spanish from that point on, as far as the colonies that were in what becomes the United States. So we've always been entrepreneurs. It's in our heritage. It's in our culture, right? And we've always had this idea also of independence from government, like you serve a function, but get out of our way. Once you stop serving our functions and our needs of our safety and of our entrepreneurship, we're going to respond, right? Mm-hmm. And so the Spanish are going to do that. They're going to rise up in rebellion to fight for the Republic of Mexico. One of the main leaders, people talk about Hidalgo, are people from this area. Bernardo Guterres de Lara went from Guerrero Viejo with the mission to Washington, D.C., to acquire funding and support for the United States for the Mexican rebellion against Spain for its independence, right? The president said, I'm not going to get involved with it, whatever, but he ended up getting money, probably covertly, in New Orleans, did an invasion. Texas, which is the north and the west, was the first area to be liberated from the Spanish by this guy from our area. And so then you have other uprisings, rebellions. I don't want to get into. I want to do a chronology, but we have a long history of fighting for it. So after that, you get independence, and then you get the Texas secession of 1836, which is north of the Nueces. They claimed this area, but they could never occupy it, right? Because we were never part of Texas. We were Nueva Santander and then later Tamaulipas. And one of the reasons this area was sought after is because of the port of Matamoros, which is the port of Brownsville today. Mm-hmm. Matamoros was, you got to understand, these cities are on the south side of the river because it's a higher bank. So they couldn't get flooded, right? But they had land on this side. Anyway, the port of Matamoros brought in about 2/3 of all goods from the world, from the Atlantic trade, into the Mexican market. Mm-hmm. So you got a guy like, say, James Stillman or Stillman family that comes from Connecticut into Matamoros. And they had just started a bank like in 1816, 1817, because they're merchants, right? So merchants had to fund their operations. That family makes so much money, their bank still exists today. Do you know what bank that is? Citibank. Citibank makes its bucks from our economic activity in Matamoros and Brownsville, Port of Brownsville. Right?
Yeah.
So we have this long history of entrepreneurship and independence and all that. And when we talk about being conservative in the Valley, what you're talking about is a conservatism around what my brother believed: smaller government, pro-business, but respect, dignity for the people and the individual. And it should be regardless of what your citizenship status is, because what we decide is valuable is who you are as a person, not where you were born. Right. Yeah. And that ultimately, that's what it means to be an American. But we were doing it early on.
Yeah. I love that.
So tell him not to despair. Tell him to organize and advocate so we could resolve those issues so he could finish those projects.
I think a big part of that is just education, bro. Like, I don't think that we know enough of this stuff.
Right? We're literally we are faulting. We need education like this that can teach us. That's why I'm so quiet, because I'm like, I need to try and absorb as much of this information because it's new to me.
Yeah,
all of this is
so. There's other rebellions, including the last one where Chata la Matanza. It's called the Plan de San Diego in English. It's called the Revolución de Texas in Spanish. That was the last attempt to, hey, you're not treating us right. You're killing us. You know, you're taking our land. By the way, the people killed in La Matanza were landowners for the most part, because in Texas you have adverse possession. I assume as builders you know what that is, right?
No.
You guys never heard of adverse possession?
No, please.
I have.
Okay.
You
can legally take somebody else's land away who has title to it if you can occupy it for a certain amount of time. You go to court, says, I'm on this land. I've been on this land for a long time.
Like squatting.
I never understood that, because it's like, how does that actually work?
It works.
It's like a test exam when you get your real estate license, but so you just go and you just
occupy the land.
You're just there, right?
And then you appeal to the court, say, I want to take control of this land. So if you kill the landowner and you run the family off, what happened in 1915?
Yeah.
And then
there's no opposition.
You file the petition 5 years, 6 years, 7 years later, you acquire that land. But you use, this case, state rangers to remove the landowner for you. And I'm not just saying this like, oh, this is my interpretation. It actually comes out in the testimony of the Canales hearings investigation of the Rangers in 1919. They actually sealed that document for 50 years because they were protecting the people who were being accused in that document.
What?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is that guy Lott from Harlingen. He comes out there. He goes, he actually went and took a ranger with him. He was the special ranger. Told the landowner, you don't sell me the land, we're going to come back. That landowner didn't capitulate. He went and filed the complaint to the local justice of peace. They arrested Lott, and they said, oh, he was having a bad day. You know, drop your charges. We'll make sure he doesn't bother you. He was able to keep his land that way. A lot of other people had to flee, and they lost their land through what they call abandonment and then adverse possession.
Yeah, jeez.
But the point is, we have a long history of fighting for our rights, and I think we need to embrace that, and fighting for our values. And like I said, our values are pretty straightforward. They come from a long history of independence, of judging people by what they do, not where they're born.
Yeah. I think if we can all agree that we can, as a whole, make better decisions, right? Especially in our organization. If we can make better decisions because we're educated, I think we could all stand behind that, right? And so, I don't know. Would it be beneficial for Mr. Gonzales to be part of our chat? Why not? Like,
I think
why
that.
not?
No,
Why
you're talking
not?
about this. You're talking about this, or
No.
Organizing.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Understanding our rights, understanding our history, where we're building. I think understanding the history of where you're at, where you're building, where you're doing business, where you're raising your family. I think all that is extremely important.
Yeah.
And why do we need to go to a university to learn our own history?
No.
Right? Why not ask our neighbors?
No.
Especially historic,
No, it definitely gives you a sense of pride. Like, I mean,
it creates a unity.
Yeah, now I'm like, I want to know more.
Yeah,
like,
because
what happened?
If you know you come from a community of people who are entrepreneurs, struggle, and civil rights activists, it's not hard for you to make the leap that you could do the same thing.
Yes.
If you deny people that history, then you deny them the vision of what they can become and meet their full potential. And that is done on purpose, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It is.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yep.
So we don't need to follow that.
Right.
Right? Education is anywhere at any time.
So going back to the nuts and bolts of coalition building is understanding, as I said, it was messy and all that. But, once you get a group of people together and you get the work going, then you're going to need to have letters written to the federal representatives, to president, who, one of the reasons we're able to do this history is we have the letters from people from here writing to the president, say, hey, this is wrong, right? When Felix Longoria, World War II veteran that was killed in the Philippines, when they were bringing back his body to Three Rivers to be buried, the funeral home refused to have the body because he said, we don't allow Mexicans in the funeral home. And so that became a national uproar. But Hector P. Garcia, the founder of the American GI Forum, wrote letters to the president, the senators, and the senator at the time, Senator Johnson, helped arrange for him to be buried in Arlington. But what the point I'm trying to make is that's just an example of Hector P. Garcia. Mm-hmm. There are thousands upon thousands of examples of our community organizing, mobilizing, and changing the world for our betterment.
If we knew
and right
that,
now, we need to do that because this is cutting across political parties. What's going on? This is cutting to the heart of us, and we need to respond to that attack on our community.
No, I completely agree with that. I think I wouldn't know where to start, right? I would lean on somebody like yourself and any other organization that shares those values about our culture and our people. I think the first I just don't know. I have no idea where.
I think the first thing to do is to call a meeting. Say, hey, we're going to meet and we're specific and have an agenda. We're specifically going to talk how should we address the ongoing issues of deportation that are affecting our industry and also our community at large. Mm-hmm. And then have a town meeting and talk to those people. And then from there, from those groups of people, there's going to be a certain group that's going to come up and say, okay, let's actually do something, not just talk about it. And that's where you start building your centralized committee to organize things. And then from there, you build out a plan, and you could ask advice from everybody else, but build out a plan to then, okay, we're going to write letters here. This is what we're going to say in the letters, and then we're going to personally go and deliver it to the congresswoman, right, Monica de la Cruz, and the congressman Vicente Gonzales, and the congressman Henry Cuellar, right? Because this needs to be a bipartisan lobbying effort, not just simply going after Republicans, although it's Republican policies that we're dealing with, and say, hey, look, you need to address it and see what they respond. If they don't respond, then you have a press conference at their office saying they haven't responded. We want answers, right? And then you got to press. But this has to be civil. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about picking up guns, right?
Right.
This is civil. And then you got to put them on the spot. Yeah. And the more you put on the spot, that is the political pressure, right? The other thing you need to do is there's two things that politicians need: money and votes.
Yep.
If you can start organizing, we're going to hold our money back. If I want to support you, we're going to hold our money back. You're not going to get our cash. And you're not going to get our votes until we actually see something substantial, not a proposed bill that makes no sense, but something substantial, and advocating for our concerns. We're letting you know. Mm-hmm. You got to put the fear of God and represent, because they work for us. They're our employees. We're their boss, and you need to assert your authority as the boss.
Y no contestan.
I think that people.
And what happens if you had an employee who doesn't?
If you had a subway that was not answering your call,
what would you do?
You still hire him?
I mean, dude, it's very sad. It's a very sad situation. I think that going back and seeing that person's face and hearing him yesterday tell me that, I was, and I saw it. I saw the concern also in another builder. When I felt his energy, and his energy seemed, obviously it was
defeated.
Sad. It seemed defeated.
Yeah.
And I could read it off him. And I was my inner voice was like, it something told me, it was like, he's struggling, right? And it's sad to see, and I'm trying to choose my words wisely. It's sad to see people lose their fire with the circumstances that we're going through. But I think we can all agree here that this eventually is going to trickle down to the whole economy here in the valley. Whether people want to believe this or not, we are an economy driven by immigrant labor, you know, and the faster that we realize this and we can come together and write these letters or contact these people that we need to contact to try and make a difference. I don't know how I can bring that security to my fellow members and builders and stuff, but it was really sad to see. So it's alarming to me because I would like to believe that we do have that spirit of fight in us still, but the people like you and I that are not afraid to speak up for what we believe in and the values that our parents instilled in us and fight for those values. I feel like nowadays, bro, like there's not many of us. I feel like this, along with all these apps and stuff that people are blinded by, I feel like, I don't know why, but I just feel like there's not many of us to where it's like, hey, man, I'll go speak on behalf of what's right. And I'll write a letter on behalf of what's right. Not everyone's like that. People are not like that. Maybe because people are living in their own perspective and maybe they don't see this being a real issue. But when you're looking at the grand scheme of the economy as a whole, and you start realizing like, hey, when you have a builder telling you, I have 5 houses that haven't moved, I'm scared shitless. He didn't say the word shitless, but I can see the fear in his face. Dude, that's a problem. Because if that's one builder that has the balls to be honest and be honest with you, to tell you, hey, dude, I'm fucking struggling. I got payments I got to make on these houses. They're not fucking moving. I don't have people that are coming in and want to buy them. That's one. If there's one, and let's say there's 200, 300, 400 construction companies in the valley.
There more than that, I'm sure.
So there's more than one builder that's going through this.
Of course.
So if you have one builder that's going through this, and it's affecting him, that's going to affect the price of a home. That's going to affect how long the home gets taken up to build. It's going to affect the realtor. It's going to affect the lender. It's going to affect the bank. It's going to affect the consumer.
Yeah.
There's a greater scheme to all this, but I don't see people that are willing. There's very few, bro.
Yeah.
There's very
but
few.
I think that, but yes, I agree that there's few, but I think that can change.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say that there's probably more than you realize.
Yeah.
But they need to be part of the organization. They need to hear about it.
Yes.
And you'll start to move. And what happens with a movement is it always starts with 3 guys, right? Hector B. Garcia, this is a story
Yeah.
you do. When you go into a Alice or an Edinburgh, whatever, and he was going to organize it for the American GI Forum, he'd always go to the barbershop first. The Mexicana barbershop, because they're segregated, right? You have the Mexican barbershop, the black barbershop, and you have the white barbershop. And you go in the Mexican one. Because the barber knew everybody, right? And it says, hey, I'm Hector P. Garcia. I'm trying to organize a chapter of the American GI Forum in your community. Who should I talk to? Who are the leaders of the community here? And the barber will say, well, talk to this person, this person. And it's only 2 or 3 people you can talk to. And from those 2 or 3 people, having conversations would build up to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever. That's how you start a movement. Movement always starts with a couple of people. And there are people up there that are willing to speak up. But until they're brought into that effort, they're lost, right?
One, now, they don't know, right? Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, and right now you don't have a coalition political organization that's focused on the politics of what's going on now, because frankly, you guys were concerned about that. You were concerned about building.
Yeah.
But now this political world has come and hit you at your house, and not being able to sell those 5 houses. What is that going to do to his mortgage? What is that going to do to feeding his kids? What's that going to do to their livelihood, right? This is directly at our families, right? And it's not some abstract thing for us. It's real.
Yep.
And there's a lack of a voice that's speaking up to say this is affecting all of us, from the undocumented person to the entrepreneurs that are building homes, to the restaurant owners, to the nursing homes that are taking care of our abuelos, you know? we want those people there to help because they're kind.
Yeah.
So this is across society. It's detrimental, and I think people will move once you create that organization, right? So it may not be the alliance per se. It might be something else you guys bring together.
Yeah.
But you're going to bring to the political activity other than people who just vote or give money. Now they're going to have to organize and speak their voice and speak it to those people and say, you are not doing something that's right, and it's affecting us, and that's wrong.
Yeah. I think that you're going to have to speak up now or later, but you're going to have to speak up.
Yeah.
It's better to speak up before you lose your house.
Better to speak up before you lose your house.
And you can't feed your kids.
So to answer your question, bro, or not, it wasn't a question, but
to reiterate into
there's plenty that will speak up.
And I really hope so, because when I saw that, but when I heard that yesterday, I was like, I know you're not the only one. Mm-hmm. I know you're not the only one. I mean, I know for a fact that there's a particular showing going on right now, and I know for a fact that there was 5, I was told 5 homes that were supposed to be in that they were not completed. Mm-hmm. So they were missing 5 homes, right? And it's obviously due to what's happening. Now, I don't wish bad or anything on anyone, right? It's concerning because if that's happening to that scale, it's gonna eventually trickle down to the economy. And one of the things that nursing homes, how are nursing homes being affected so that people can actually understand that? Because that was something that when I learned about it, I was like, well, that's pretty crazy. So how are they being affected, and how important are these people to nursing homes overall?
Well, I'm not in the industry, but I did see that article where there's a reduced number of nursing home staff, the custodial work, the things like that. But when they had that fire that killed all those elderly people, right, it was not going to escape and all this stuff, right? And then, of course, the building was old. They were reduced staff as well. So that individual who's a custodian who you don't think can be helpful can help somebody out of a building that's on fire, right? But that person's not there anymore because they're scared to go to work or they've been deported, right? Or they had temporary status.
Yeah.
Right? And so they could work. They were legally working, but with the snap of a finger, they can no longer work because Trump signed an executive order ending their temporary status. There's a lot of people who are temporary status, right? They're working right now, but now they're not because he just took them out he took out 500,000 people from the labor market.
Yeah.
And some of those people were in the nursing home and they were gone. And that cost lives. This is real. This isn't abstract.
Yeah.
This isn't, we're just getting rid of the bad immigrants. And you should be, and I'm always annoyed with people celebrating the destruction of families because they deported some fathers. So look at the guy he's the father of 3 Marines and they're beating him up on the ground.
I saw that.
That's ridiculous. This guy has 3 sons defending our nation. And that's how he's treated. I mean, that's ridiculous.
What would you do if they were beating up your pops?
Yeah. No. I don't even want to begin to imagine that. Yeah.
Los garras a putazos, güey, te conozco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's reality.
Yeah.
I think that because we are all human and it is an innate ability for us to survive, you can only back up a man into a corner so long before he comes out swinging. And so what I mean by that, okay, I think that this has all caught us off guard. And it's somewhat shocking because they are raiding and picking up people. But I strongly believe in our community and our Latino community. We come out swinging, bro. You're only gonna back us up into the corner for so long.
I want to kind of give kudos to the whole to the Valley for being restricted in the way that it has taken this this whole effort from the mass deportation and these I would like to believe that some of these people that are doing this are not even like cops. Some of them are not even cops, and I'm pretty sure they're Mexican as well. But the response that the Valley has had and keeping the character of respect when it comes to that, because you see things like California where people are rioting and looting and destroying buildings and setting stuff on fire. I would like to believe that here in the Valley, we're very different when it comes to that. We were raised with a different type of value and sort of respect. But I can agree with you where
until it happens to you,
there can be there's going to be a switch.
Well,
I know you.
Yeah,
I know you.
Yeah.
Imagine your little girl, bro.
Yeah.
What I want to add
it's happened.
Yeah.
Picked up little kids.
Yeah, they're deporting kids, and they're deporting children who are U.S. citizens, right? But there's one thing I would...
Yo quemo todo el pedo if they pick up my kid.
Of course, dude.
One thing I need to add, because you talk about being backed in the corner. The corner's here already. The money to dramatically expand what's going on. If you don't start working on this in the next week or so to organize and to start putting pressure, it's going to be harder to do when they actually have those extra monies spent or spending that extra money to ramp up things, because they're going to ramp up detention facilities, they're going to ramp up recruitment and officers. And all. If you wait till that happens, you have a worse problem, right? So you have a small cancer. You don't want the cancer to get big as far as a big tumor. Right. And right now that bill is going to make the cancer a humongous tumor, and you got to nip that tumor now by organizing politically to get the officials here to put pressure on the federal government.
You said it was 176.
I believe it's 176, 178 billion.
Yeah, it's billion. Billion.
Yeah, it's
no más para eso.
Billion.
No más para eso.
Yeah. So if you wait for it to escalate more, the problem's going to be even worse. You got to do it now, and you got to start having concessions from elected officials saying this needs to stop now. And one thing I would say is this is a real easy thing. This is what the people who during the 90s were trying to get people not to raise taxes. They said, in order for our organization to support you, you got to sign this document stating you will immediately support the end of deportations and begin putting legislation for a legal pathway for people here who are honest and be here for a certain amount of time. If you don't sign that document, we withhold our endorsement. You need to start holding elected officials.
That's awesome.
As an organization.
Yeah. And it's not new. This is what the people...
Speak up. This is American.
This is like, hey, you want our support? Way. You sign this document. It's like the anti-abortion people says, you want our support? You guys sign that document that says you're going to be anti-abortion, right? You want our support? You have to put pressure on the federal government to stop the deportations, and we have to see you put legislation to start legalizing pathways for people and the things that you want. But you're not going to get it unless you sign this document. Mm-hmm. And if they don't want to sign it, they know what's
no
going
support.
On. No support. No financial or voter support.
Yep.
That's what it is about to be part of a democracy. It isn't always, clean and nice and.
But that is nice. But that's nice. That's not a gun. That's
no,
just
no, yes, sir. Yeah, you're right.
That's our system.
You got to stand up.
Yeah.
You can't be quiet.
No, that's our system. You say you sign this pledge and you adhere to this pledge and you get our support. If you don't sign this pledge, well, ni modo, we're going to go with somebody else.
Sí.
Thank you very much for your service.
Sí. No, with you, man.
I mean, it's like you said, they're here to be our voice and they work for us, and not meaning that in any way, shape, or form disrespectful, but I mean, it's like our board, right?
True,
and it's like myself. We all have a position and we have membership that we have to hear out, and we have to do what's best for them and hear them out. And if they want something, we make sure that we accomplish that. And then the board also has to, hey, what's best for our body right now? What's best for our membership? So it's like you would want to believe that our elected officials can see the greater problem. And please educate me on this, because I am like thrown. I know, and I was looking at the time because I know Mr. Gonzales here has to leave at 4:30. But what was it that was recently signed where now they're asking for the sheriff's office or somebody to kind of help with what's happening?
That's the state of Texas. That's not the federal government. The state of Texas passed legislation saying that sheriff's departments, and I assume city law enforcement as well, and constables cannot reject working with immigration enforcement.
They cannot reject.
Right. So if immigration comes and says, "Hey, we need," ICE comes and says, "We need you to help out in this, that," they can't say no.
That's wild.
Now there's a federal policy where local law enforcement could sign on and work with immigration deportation, right? And that's what Obama used a lot of, was those those agreements where local law enforcement would help transport. Say if somebody got arrested, DWI, they're undocumented, they would hold them and they'd come and get them. That's why Obama was able to do that so much. And there's a couple of aspects to what they could do, from the prisons to actual law enforcement on the streets. The state of Texas one is to get sheriffs to say, hey, you do not resist, you cooperate. You have to cooperate, or you have it. I think a criminal penalty if you don't cooperate.
If you don't cooperate.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. And most recently, I mean, Ken Paxton with this case with the federal government, where the federal government says, we had the Texas Dream Act. We were the first. Actually, I helped lobby for that, right, back in 2001. We went from Houston, but people from around Texas went to ask the state of Texas to allow for undocumented students who graduated high school here to have in-state tuition rates. So we're the first to do that in the country, Texas, right? And I remember going to the committee hearing. We're there, and it was so full. The testimony was so compelling, particularly this girl from Ed Calchelsa, that the Speaker of the House came into the committee meeting, and the chair says, I want to recognize the Speaker of the House. This has never happened before. The Speaker of the House has never come to our committee meetings before, right? And it was signed by Rick Perry, and it's called the Texas Dream Act. Anyway, so the federal government sued, and Ken Paxton capitulated and says, yep, you're right, and completely ended in-state tuition for undocumented students or DACA students, stuff like that, which is going to be a blow to higher education. So I think STC's 1% to 3% of our students are undocumented.
So what's going on with that? They're cutting all sorts of funds, or what's?
Well, they didn't get funds. Well, they didn't get federal grants. They don't get financial aid. What they did was they paid out-of-pocket in-state tuition rates. Okay. So they didn't pay the higher out-of-state tuition rate. And so anyway, we're dealing with that now at universities. I mean, some university, I think some college is going to lose about $10 million right off the bat, like that, $5 million, because it's tuition, right, that you get, and you lose that tuition, right? So some institutions are going to get hard with that ruling. And so we'll see how enrollment looks in the fall. But now those students are going to not be able to go to school because they can't afford the higher tuition rate. So this is hitting things on several levels. This anti-immigrant sentiment and politics that's going from the state level to the federal level, and we're getting hit in different sectors.
Mr. Gonzalez, you have a coalition that you are active in now?
Not related to this. I've reduced my focus to trying to, and this is crazy, right? Trying to get the state of Texas to create a Truth and Reconciliation Committee to look at state-sanctioned violence from 1836 to 1980. What that means is, from 1836 to 1980, looking at massacres, things like that the state of Texas was either actively involved through state actors like state law enforcement, or were allowing to occur by not prosecuting the people engaged in those sorts of acts, right? So the matanza that we talk about here is one of several of these incidents that happened between 1836 and 1980. And I think in order to move forward, we have to acknowledge first that happened, and then we need to consider, apologies or recognition. So whatever we end up deciding. And I actually sent a letter 2 legislative sessions ago. Was it 2? I think it was 2. Where I asked for them to, I sent it to the lieutenant governor, to the Speaker of the House, saying, hey, this is what's going on. Would you please consider creating a Truth and Reconciliation Committee? That's what I called it. But one of the things I wanted to do with that letter is I put the names of the people I knew from the Port Venin massacre outside of El Paso from 1918, and the names that I knew from here, La Matanza, because there's no state records that have those names. And so once I submit that letter, now it's in a state archive.
Yeah.
To give those individuals the dignity of being named in the documents. And so I did that knowing full well that I was going to get a response, and I'm a one-man show right now. You got to start pressing that wall, right? Because you never know when the wall's going to collapse.
Yeah.
And so, but it's never going to collapse if you don't start to put that pressure.
Yeah. I mean,
and so I don't have a coalition, but this is what I'm working on. And that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow night on the Refuse and Forget.
Send us a link to that, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Where is that going to be?
It's going to be on Zoom.
Okay,
Zoom. I think it's for Patreon members, Refuse and Forget, but I think there's also a free access or something. I'll find out from the organizers.
Yeah, please. I think that would be ideal.
Definitely.
For us to get on.
Definitely. I mean, I think that as a whole, I believe that STBA has been very active with this whole situation. I know that a bunch of our members, and I know this because when I was out in Washington trying to get this national recognition, we put together a town hall meeting. We had a great response with mayors and commissioners and all sorts of people that showed up. and it lets you know that people are really worried about what's happening. And I believe that you coming on here and educating us on how to properly navigate through this and creating a letter. And I'll say this on live. We had an opportunity in the national level to send a letter to Trump
as a builder organization in the state of Texas.
No,
nationally.
No, as a builders organization at a national level. Mm-hmm. And it was tabled, right? And I mean, when we all know that whenever things get tabled, it's the easiest way to, let's postpone till next time. Let's see what happens. And I believe that this issue is so important that I couldn't believe
that was a big mistake
that it was tabled. And even the person that presented the letter and read the letter to the whole organization, I thought it was a great way of saying, like, we need your help more than anything else.
This can't continue.
Yeah.
Because of this, and this.
And
yeah.
you all should have seen the amount of people that were standing up to talk on these microphones, giving the national, our national representatives for the housing industry, telling them the amount of pressure that they are under to finish these projects. How many people they've lost from
the negative
Florida
impact
to Louisiana.
that it's having on our industry. Yeah.
Just crazy amount. But it only took one person, after everybody spoke and was talking about how bad it's getting, one person stood up and was like, I don't believe that this is our issue, and I don't believe this is our problem. Some older white man stood up and was like, I don't want to send no letter to Trump.
Tabled.
And it was just like, well, let's take a vote on this. And it just took that one man. And everybody was like, okay, well, we'll table it till we'll table it till the fall. Bro, the fall? I was like, dude.
But I think but at that same time, the farmers organization and
Send
the
a letter.
hoteliers, they
Yes,
did.
yes.
And so that stopped for them.
Right.
And that stopped for them.
Right.
But for us,
Right.
we tabled.
Yeah.
So the one thing I suggest, organizing wise and politica, right, is that before you have a vote, you need to make sure you have the votes to win on the board. And that takes backroom talking and conversations and stuff like that. So when you go in, you could have that one guy say, no, you've already locked in the votes.
Yeah.
But you can win.
Yeah.
That's part of organizing, right?
Yeah.
So organizing is like, hey, we're a collective. You're here. We want you to vote this. And explain to them, right? I mean, I just don't, just say, hey, vote for me, and that's it, right? Explain to them why it's important. And yes, you're going to hear pushback, but we need you to support this, in this case, this letter.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
The thing about organizing and coalition building, 99% of the work is in conversations, phone calls, Zoom meetings, conference meetings, whatever.
Yep.
Talking over beers, talking over dinner at these meetings.
Lobbying.
It's all that. That's where it takes place.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have the theater of marches and press conference and all that, and that has an important place there. But that's only 1% or less of organizing. Organizing doesn't get seen.
Yep.
Organizing gets done.
Yep.
Okay. Now it also takes a lot to organize those parades and those events. But the people who show up to the protest parades and all that, they don't do the other 99% of the work.
Yeah.
You still need them, and you call them, you get them there, but you need your bodies. But the other part of the work is sitting in front of your computer and making calls and messages and emails and
The hard work.
Yeah. And making sure you line up your board with what you want them to vote on.
Yeah.
Before the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you I've started to learn that as I started moving, being able to go to national meetings and state meetings, and one of the guys, he sits on the state level, and I've had the privilege of sitting down with him multiple times, and we'll shoot the shit over some beers, and he taught me that. And he taught me that. He was like, if you really believe, it was like the second meeting that I went to, and he came to the Valley because his son is on a traveling soccer team. So when he came to the Valley, we went and had dinner and whatnot. And when we were having dinner, he looked me straight in the eye, and he was like, if you really believe that people are walking into these board meetings not knowing what they're going to decide, you need to catch up. Like when he's like, you need to catch up. He's like, because all these decisions are already, They're already in place. He's like, board meetings are there for the theatrical part. He's like, but people are already moving, man. I learned that maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You start to understand that, and you're like, okay, everything is like how he was like, it's all in the hallway.
Yeah.
Everything's in the hallway. He's like, everything else is theatrical. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Sunbelt's coming up, right?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
It's coming up next week. It's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to talk about that more on the chat and see if we can get people to go, right? Because there's power in numbers, right? And there's influence in numbers. Right. And so if we can get there with, 30 strong, I mean, it shows something, right?
So when we did the thing on the racist textbook, MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, they helped create a coalition specifically to work on that, right? And I think we had like 20-some organizations that signed off on the coalition, LULAC, American GI Forum, different universities, student groups, and todo eso, right? Civil society groups, African American as well as Mexican American. So the more organizational endorsements you get for these efforts, the stronger your voice becomes, particularly for politicians. Politicians, like I said, are two things: money and votes. And if you withhold those, they're either going to listen to you or they're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And so usually they'll try to listen to you.
Yeah, that's the basics.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's just get to the basics. We live in a democracy, and you need money to
run your campaign. And
run
you
a
need
campaign.
votes. And we have the ability to change that enough so that you could lose your race.
Yeah.
And I think the pledge idea of maybe this organization, I don't know what the Sunbelt organization, but maybe the organization come up with a pledge sheet saying, I pledge to figure out pathways for workers and whatever you guys decide. And so we will only endorse candidates who sign it. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever. If you endorse it, if you sign the pledge, you'll have our support.
But I'll tell you this: everyone is hurting across the board. Everyone, bro.
This is the most important topic of our careers.
Yeah.
So I think we really need to push this forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, this is the beginning of your coalition building.
Yeah.
You guys started it now. Because there's people out there listening. They're probably going to contact you, or you need to contact them and start building.
How many people we got listening? Like 1,000?
we had around 12 right now.
Okay.
Live watching.
Okay. Okay. How many likes and comments and all that good stuff? And the reason I'm asking is because we do a raffle.
Okay.
We have a raffle every podcast.
Okay.
They have to just like, comment, and share, and we put them in a raffle.
Okay.
How many did we get?
We got 5 people.
Okay.
5 people actually shared, liked, and commented.
Yeah.
Okay.
All 3 things.
That's the beginning.
So this is a wheel. It's got their names, and all you're gonna do is press the.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah, we usually have our guests do it. And,
Okay.
And I hate to cut this conversation short. I know we're 5 minutes past. I know he has to go pick up his daughter.
yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to cut it short because it's so interesting. We're gonna have to get you back on.
Yeah.
Well, you could get me back on when you guys start the coalition. I'm going to put you guys to the task, man. Okay, here's the spin.
Okay, but you're the chairman.
Please.
We already nominated you. Sorry, you have to do it.
Ali Lopez.
Ali.
Hey,
Nice.
Okay.
congratulations to Ali. We're gonna give I was gonna give a gift card to De Sanchez, $150.
Where's that? Ali works where? Where does she work? She
She-
works at what's the name of it?
Isn't that your girl?
Encore.
No, but wait, it's his girl.
Oh, that's your girl. Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing, Ali. And to the people that will eventually watch this, if you don't believe that we have an issue in our hands, it's like Mr. Gonzales here said, the corner is already here. The reason that I'm concerned about this is because I truly care about all my fellow members. And when I saw this yesterday, and we already had Mr. Gonzales that was going to come on the podcast, but when I saw this builder and I saw how worried he looked, I was like, there's something really wrong, you know? And it's concerning because it lets you know where we're headed as a market and an economy. And we need to take some sort of initiative. And I know that we've been working really hard as an organization by bringing people together and having meetings. We've done all that, and if we have to continue having meetings specifically for that, we will. I mean, we're here to help our members, right? But if what's next in line is to start having sent letters to our elected officials and have them hear our voice, and I don't know if Mr. Gonzales Vicente has done anything different recently or not.
He submitted a letter to President Trump. I can't remember all the details, but this is a month and a half ago or whatever, asking that deportations be stopped for the farmers, construction industry, and those kinds of things. So he's been very supportive of stopping that. I don't know the details of what his policy proposals are, his solutions to, other than stopping it, of course, is to address this larger issue of labor and undocumented labor and how we can maybe legalize their status and things like that. I think he talked about legalization, but I can't remember the details because it's like a month and a half ago.
Yes, sir.
He sent this, so.
He's been very attentive and very, at least I would like to believe, present here with us, and he understands how important this is.
Yeah. And he's also the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is Democrat and Republican, right? So he tries to be bipartisan and coming up with solutions to these issues. So he's part of that coalition, Republicans and Democrats, that try to work together. And unfortunately, not everybody else in the Republican Party, not everybody else in the Democratic Party is in the Problem Solvers Caucus, right? But he tries to do that. So I think he tries to find a common sense solution to these things.
Well, he answers our phone call, so that we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, that's important. If you're representative or you're elected official, whether it's a city councilman to the president of the United States, well, obviously the president of the United States cannot respond to you, but at least your federal representatives are not responding to you, then yeah, that should tell you you're not important. It's like back in the day when we were younger and we're single. And some guy comes like, hey, I think this girl likes me, whatever. It goes, have she called you back? No, but I think she really likes me. And go, dude, she doesn't like you.
Bro, she's just not that into you.
She's not calling you back, right? So if you have a representative not calling you back, it's the same deal, right? You're
not that into you.
Yeah, you're not important.
We appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'd love to have you back and be more part of the the conversation of how do we get back on track, right?
Yeah.
So
the only thing I would like to end this is that we have a long history of standing up and speaking our voice in this community, and I think those people who may be concerned, don't be concerned. There's nothing to fear, right? And just speak up and move forward, and you're going to be fine, and you're going to get your win with you. You're going to get your pace with you and all that.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Well, thank you once again for coming on, and thank you, Ronnie, for being
course,
here today.
Always.
And thank you to everybody that watched this, and we'll definitely keep trying to bring you all podcasts with great information and great insight. And once again, thank you so much. I mean, I feel inspired now. I want to go learn more about where we're
from.
Yeah.
What we're about.
I hope this inspires somebody to go and learn and take pride in where we come from and who we are as a valley. I mean, we're the Rio Grande Valley, and we got to take pride in where we come from. And I just want to say thank you once again for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzales. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.